I'm Scott Bakken with HHA Sports, and today we're out on the range sighting in our new Optimizer King Pin. So the first thing we're going to do is we got the King Pin out of the box and assembled and mounted to our bow. Every King Pin comes with a setup tape already wrapped on the wheel. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to calibrate our sight to our bow setup. So every sight is going to be different based on the bow setup. So my bow I'm shooting today, I'm shooting about 64 pounds, 280 feet per second with a 26.5-inch arrow. So we're going to calibrate my sight to my setup. The first step in sighting the King Pin is we're going to shoot at 20 yards and we're going to get our first yardage mark. So we're going to shoot 2 yardages, 20 and 60, but we're going to start at 20. Once we get our 20 mark, we're going to mark it on our setup tape, and then we'll back up to 60 and get our 60-yard mark. We have the luxury of shooting at a pretty decent sized target. For at home, if you only have a small block target, obviously you'll probably want to start up a little closer just so you ensure you hit the target. But we have a pretty big target today, so I'm going to go ahead and start my setup tape at number 5 on the dial. The setup tape starts at 0, so that's the absolute bottom, but I'm going to start at 5 and just see where I hit, and then we'll go from there. So we'll go ahead and take a shot and see what happens. Okay, so that first shot looks like I'm about a foot low and probably about 3 inches to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and make an adjustment. I'm going to start with my vertical adjustment just by moving my dial. And I'm going to move it, if I'm at 5 now, I'm going to move it up to about 20 and see where that gets me. And then since I'm shooting left, I'm going to move my sight left, or my scope housing left. So you always chase the arrow. If you're shooting left, you move your sight left. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen up the micro windage adjustment. And then I'm going to move it. 1 click on our micro windage is about 1/8 of an inch at 20 yards. So we're at 20 and I'm about 3 inches to the left, so I'm going to move it about 6 clicks. And let's see where that goes. So we made our adjustments. We made our vertical adjustment and our windage adjustment, and we'll see where we go from here. So that second arrow was pretty good. We're about dead center, up and down, just a hair to the left yet, but we do have some wind today, so that could be a factor in that. But the key is, at 20 yards and at 60 yards, you don't have to be shooting a really, really tight group. You just want to get, a decent group so you know where your arrow's hitting. But we'll go ahead and shoot one more just to make sure that, our 20-yard mark is on. All right, so second shot after our adjustment hit about the same place. So it appears our 20-yard mark is on. So I'm going to mark on my setup that my 20-yard mark is at mark 20, so it works out pretty good. So we're back here at 60 yards now. We shot at 20 yards, found our 20-yard mark, which ended up being mark number 20 on our setup tape. So now we're going to come back to 60 yards and find our 60-yard mark, and that'll determine what yardage tape we're going to put on our King Pin for my setup. So because at 20 yards it ended up being mark number 20, I'm going to start at mark number 60 and see what happens. We have a pretty big target to shoot at, so at home, you can go 20, 30, 40, 50, and then 60, but, we're just going to start at 60 and see what happens. So we'll shoot an arrow and see where we hit. Alrighty, so we just went down and looked at that first arrow. It looked like it was about 6 inches low at 60 yards at mark number 60. So 20 yards was at 20. I started 60 at mark number 60 and we were low. So I'm gonna go a little bit higher and I'm gonna shoot 63, 64 and just see where that puts us. And then we'll go from there. All right, so we just went down and checked out that last shot, and it hit right where we wanted. You know, one thing to keep in mind when you're sighting in at 60 yards, 60 yards is a pretty good distance, so you don't need to be stacking arrows right on top of each other. If you can put 3 or 4 arrows in a paper plate size group, that's plenty sufficient. So this arrow hit, you know, where I'm happy with. So it turns out that at 60 yards, my 60 yard mark is mark number 63. At 20 yards, we are at mark number 20. So if you take 20 from 63, that gives you tape number 43. So we're gonna go into our tape kit that came with our Kingpin, and we're gonna find tape number 43. Once we have tape number 43, we're then gonna take our spare yardage wheel that came with our Kingpin, and we're just gonna wrap the tape right around the wheel. It doesn't matter where you start or where it ends, just wrap the tape around your spare wheel. What we'll then do is we're gonna take the setup wheel that's currently on our sight off and replace it with this newly marked spare wheel and line up the 60 yard mark on the yardage tape wheel with the 60 yard mark on your sight. Now that we've successfully installed our yardage wheel onto our Kingpin, we are sighted in from 20 yards all the way out to 100 yards by the individual yard. I'm Scott with HHA Sports. You can visit us online at hhasports.com, as well as check us out on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.